start anyway. I don't know what is happening. Yeah.
So now let us see the other respiratory or the communicable diseases. So now starting with, we'll just go ahead with the, just a second. One more student has come. Okay. So can you answer for this question? Smallpox eradication was successful due to all of the following reasons except. So can you answer for this question? The options given are subclinical cases did not transmit the disease. Do you agree with this? This is true
Hmm.
actually.
Yes,
The
actually true,
subclinical
ma'am.
cases, they don't transmit the disease of smallpox. This is right. Then whatever the vaccine that was created for smallpox, no, it was highly effective. That is the
Yes,
reason why the eradication was possible. So this is also right
fourth one.
option. Yeah, fourth one, very good. And let us see the third option also here. Infection provided lifelong immunity. This is also true with the smallpox vaccination or a reason for its eradication. Whereas the fourth one, no, the resistance existed with animal pox. Why it is wrong actually?
Mhm.
It existed or it did not existed, cross resistance.
Cross
The
resistance not existed, ma'am.
not existed with the animal pox. So that is the reason why we could make the vaccine for the smallpox. So initially, as we all know that Edward Jenner, he has prepared the vaccination for the smallpox using which one? Cowpox. Cowpox was used as a strain to create the vaccination against the smallpox. Then later what happened? An artificially created vaccine that is called as vaccinia. This name you have to remember. So this is an artificially created virus which closely resembles to that of the cowpox and even the smallpox. And this was used as a strain of vaccine for this smallpox. Next, coming to the chicken pox. So this chicken pox, no, it belongs to different group of virus. That is, it belongs to which one, students? It belongs to human herpes virus 3. So this
Three
particular
alpha.
category, huh?
Three alpha, ma'am.
Yeah, it also belongs to alpha group of virus, and it is also called as varicella virus. And the incubation period is how much? 14 to 16 days. So that is a
Yes.
period till when the virus will multiply within the host, and after that the first clinical signs and symptoms can be seen. Then what is the period of communicability? Very important MCQ question here. So like once the virus enters the host body, then after that when the infection will start and it starts spreading to the others, that we call it as what? Period of communicability. So what is the period of communicability? 2 days before the rash
Before
and
four to
two
five
days
days.
after the rash. This is very important MCQ question. Then what is the secondary attack rate? What do you mean by secondary attack rate, students? For example, this is a primary case or the first infected case. Now
From
if this,
primary,
yeah,
any other.
from primary case, how many new people will get infected because of this one primary case? So that we call it as what? Secondary attack rate. Maybe here some 10 people are there, maybe out of 10 people 9 people are getting infected with the chicken pox. That means what? It's at secondary attack rate is somewhere around 90%. So that is the amount of infection that is spread from the primary case to the rest of the healthy individuals, that we call it as what? Secondary attack rate, and it is 90% for chicken pox. It is very important. What is the most possible complication of this chicken pox? Akarsh and others, what is the most common complication? There are many complications, but when this chickenpox, when it
Recrudescence.
reactivates, it leads to the
Recrudescence.
formation of what? Herpes zoster or shingles. So this is one of the very important complication of the chickenpox. And what is the like very much sensitive and the rapid diagnostic test to say it is a chickenpox histopathologically? So, for example, the vesicles are there. So, when you scrap the vesicles and when you look it under the electron microscope, then what you can see here? So, look at the cells over here. I mean, the particles of this. vesicles, you can see some rounded bodies over here. Can you all appreciate this? Some rounded bodies. So the
Yes, sir.
visibility of these rounded particles or the bodies is a pathognomic feature or confirmatory sign for what? Chicken pox. So if you are not able to clinically appreciate or diagnose whether it is chicken pox or what type of viral lesion, then you can just scrap the vesicles, then you can look it under microscope, then you can find out this, observe for this round particles. So which is also one of the diagnostic feature of chicken pox. Now, clinically, what are the classic features of this chicken pox? So again, in examination, they can ask the questions like the classical features of the chicken pox or varicella rash. So you have to remember that clinically, always it presents with pre-eruptive phase or the prodromal phase. Any viral disease, always it starts with the what? Prodromal symptoms. So that is with the fever, and then again it will be starting with myalgia, headache, and these are the prodromal symptoms. Then it is followed by which one? Eruptive phase, that is rashes can be seen. And very important is that the rashes will be first seen on the trunk region. The concentration of the rashes will be on trunk region, and less amount of rashes will be there on the extremities of body. So can you
Yes,
see?
ma'am.
And very
Same.
important is that these rashes are symmetrical. For example, if one rash is present here and another rash will be present on the other half of the body also. So that is why we call it as what? Symmetric distribution of the rashes. And very important is that they are pleomorphic in nature.
Yes,
Pleomorphic
ma'am.
means what? So in
Same time,
one, yeah, tell Roshan. So pleomorphic means,
same
yeah,
same time in same race, ma'am.
yeah, you can see rashes where you can see the papules or you can see the macules, and you can see even the vesicles and pustules and even the scabs. All these different stages can be seen at one time only. At one time. So at one time itself, this boy he may present with different stages of lesion. See here, this is a scab, and this is a blister. So different stages, and this is what? Red papule, the redness you can see. So at one stage itself, different features of the clinical presentation can be seen. That is why it is called as pleomorphic rashes that can be seen in chicken pox. Very commonly asked MCQ question in recent NEET exams also, this differentiation was asked. Because in smallpox, no, the rashes are not pleomorphic. They are like
Non-play.
similar pattern of rashes are seen throughout the body at any given point of time. Yes. Then
Yes, ma'am.
another important point of this chickenpox rashes, they are superficial. You can see like this, they are very much superficial when compared to smallpox rash. How it was? It was very hard in consistency, and it was deep. And very important is that the smallpox rashes, they are multilocular. Multilocular means what? For example, if this is the vesicle or the blister of the smallpox, so multiple locules are seen, multiple chambers can be seen. So that we call it as what? Multilocular presentation of the multilocular presentation of the smallpox rash. Whereas in the chicken pox, they are unilocular. You don't see any septae or the segmentation. Only one chamber can be seen, and it will be filled with the either clear fluid or it can be filled with the pus type of containing material. That's it. So the rash of the chicken pox are smaller in size as compared to that of the smallpox rash, and they are always unilocular, and they are superficial, and they are pleomorphic in nature. And what is the presentation? It is centripetal or centrifugal.
This is
Students,
chicken
remember here.
plus
CE.
centripetal, ma'am.
It is centripetal. See, centripetal means what? Here everywhere you can see that E is there. That means somewhere in the center of the body the rashes are very much concentrated. Whereas in smallpox, what is in the pattern of the
Centrifugal.
rashes? They are centrifugal.
Centrifugal.
More of the rashes are seen on the extremities of the body, and more rashes are seen on the face. Whereas in this chicken pox, rashes are seen on the face, but their concentration is more on the trunk and the abdomen region. This part of the body more commonly seen. And very important is rashes are more common on the back side of the body. The back region of the body, rashes are very much common. And very important is that we describe these rashes as dew drop presentation of the rashes. Like, can you, this is a rose petal. Just look at this picture. Can you all see the slides? Akarsh and others, Vishal, other students, Jayashree, Roshan.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now this is a rose petal. On this rose petal, can you see the dew drops? So
Yes, sir.
similarly, it appears the same way the rash of the chicken pox will appear. Can you appreciate this? It is some vesicle with a clear fluid within it. So it gives the appearance of what? Dew drop appearance. So this is a classic picture of the chicken pox rash. And very important is that when compared to that of the smallpox, look at these two pictures here. Now, can you say which is smallpox and which is chickenpox? You can. It is actually differential diagnosis only. So in this, which one is smallpox and which one is
First
chickenpox?
one is smallpox, ma'am. Second one is
Second one is
chicken.
chickenpox. Why? Because
Ma'am,
smallpox
extremities,
right, usually
extremities,
involves the yeah
extremities.
extremities and even the palms and soles. So those parts of the bodies are involved. And very important, can you see the umbilication over here? The lesion will be there. In the center, there is a depression. Whereas in the chicken pox, no, you won't see much of all these umbilicated lesions. One simple lesion can be blister can be seen. So here the lesion is not affecting the palms or the soles of the body. No extremities are involved. And look at the
Hmm.
axillary region. So the axilla is commonly involved in the chicken pox rash, whereas in the smallpox, no, axilla is not that commonly involved as compared to that of the chicken pox rash. So now this is the distribution of the rash of a smallpox and chicken pox, the comparison. Look at here. In the face, lot of rashes are there, and here chicken pox face also rash is there, but concentration is less. So it is first one is a rash of which one? Smallpox. And this is second one is a picture of what? Chicken pox. Yes, and the second thing is that most of the rashes are concentrated in the center of the body, and here rashes are more concentrated on the extremities of the body. So this is a classic presentation of which one, students? It is a smallpox. Yes. So
Hmm.
this is
Yes.
the way how we have to differentiate. So what is the nature of the rash in chicken pox? It is superficial. It is
Superficial
unilocular,
centripetal.
dewdrop, and it is centripetal. These are the
Pleomorphic.
common features, and then pleomorphic. And palms and feet, they are not included in this particular type of rash. Next, one more question that can be asked, like if the mother is infected or the pregnant lady, if she is infected with the varicella, then what is the chance of fetus getting this particular congenital varicella syndrome? What is the chance? Some only 20% chances are there, and highest risk is during which one? First trimester of the pregnancy.
Hmm.
So, first trimester of the pregnancy is most risky if the pregnant lady is infected with the varicella. Now, what can be the clinical presentation? Either the damage may be so extensive that the fetus can be killed, or it may lead to the abortion. That is one possibility is there. Or if the fetus is born, then the fetus may present with the following presentations. There will be, since this virus, it has got affinity towards the sensory nerves, so there will be damage to the sensory nerves, especially the cranial nerves, and there will be micro-ophthalmia. So smaller size eyes will be there, and cataract that can lead to the blindness of the newborn, and optic atrophy will be there, and microcephaly, small head, then hypoplasia of the extremities. Can you see this baby with the hypoplasia of the extremities? Then
Hmm.
anisocoria. What do you mean by anisocoria? Look at this lady's pupils over here. So one pupil is big, another pupil is small. So this we call it as what? An. That is no. Iso means what? Symmetry. And chorea means what? It is a pupil. So there is no symmetry in the pupils. So these are the classic presentations of the congenital varicella syndrome. So the chances is how much? If the mother is, I mean, pregnant lady is affected, what is the chances? The baby will get affected. That is 20%. This numbers you have to remember. In examination, they can ask you the questions: which one of the following is a feature of congenital varicella syndrome, CVS, or which may not? Which of the following is not a feature of congenital varicella syndrome?
Hmm.
Then let us look into this one important complication of this chickenpox virus, that is herpes zoster. That is the same varicella virus. So what happens when it enters the human body? When the primary infection happens, then this virus, it will remain latent in the sensory ganglions. It will remain latent in the ganglions. Then as when the time is not favorable, or when the time is favorable for this virus, that is when the host is under immunosuppression condition, or when the individual is under stress, or during pregnancy, or small children or old age, that is above 50 years. That is above 50 years. These are all the risk factors where the herpes zoster or the varicella virus, it gets reactivated. So this reactivation of the chickenpox, we call it as what? Herpes zoster. It is also termed as what, students? Shingles.
Mm.
And very important is that the MCQ question that they can ask you is that which of the following dermatome or the nerve that is commonly involved? That is trigeminal nerve is 13% most commonly involved, but very important is thoracic group of nerves. Nearly 50% of this nerves, they are commonly involved as compared to that of the any other part. That is trigeminal, cervical, thoracic, or lumbar. And very important is that if they occur, they will never cross the midline of the body. Even on the face also, if they occur, only one half of the face is affected. Even in the cervical area or near the neck region, only one half of the body is affected. Look at this picture. So that means what? Wherever the nerve distribution is there, only that area, this particular virus, it will get reactivated, and it will show the clinical manifestations in the form of the vesicles. Yes, and they will never cross the midline. That is one of the classic feature of this
Herpes just.
herpes zoster. So in examination, they can ask you herpes zoster. It is also called as shingles and reactivation. And thoracic dermatome is most commonly involved, and it will never cross the midline. And there is no guarantee that once it happens and lifelong immunity is there. No. Again, whenever the stress is there or something like suitable factor is there, again it may rehappen. So, and what is the most common complication with this herpes zoster or shingles? If it involves the ophthalmic division, then it can lead to what? Blindness. It can lead to blindness. Then one more thing you have to remember with this herpes zoster, that is Ramsay Hunt syndrome. Very commonly asked question for you. So what is a Ramsay Hunt syndrome? It is caused by varicella zoster, nothing but the one which causes the shingles. Now what is the thing is that it is a triad, the triad which contains what? Ipsilateral facial paralysis. Can you see this picture? This lady is
Yes,
having
ma'am.
what? Facial nerve paralysis, and there will be loss of hearing. And can you see the vesicles on the pinna of the ear? So pinna, you can see the vesicles over here. So this ultimately results in difficulty in hearing, painful ears, and spinning sensation, tinnitus. So all these are the associated symptoms of this Ramsay Hunt syndrome. So this was first described by Ramsay in the year 1907. Yes. And very important point you have to remember, this occurs when the geniculate ganglion of the facial nerve is involved.
Reactivated.
So the facial nerve in its intracranial course, what happens in the petrous temporal region? So it will meet the geniculate ganglion. When this ganglion it is affected and it is like reactivated by this herpes zoster or varicella zoster virus, then this Ramsay Hunt syndrome presentations can be seen. So what are the classical triad of these features of this Ramsay Hunt syndrome?
Ipsilateral facial paralysis.
Ipsilateral facial paralysis, ear pain or hearing loss, and vesicles on the pinna of the ear. These are the classic features of the Ramsay Hunt syndrome. And very important, anytime shingles means remember, shingles or herpes zoster, yes, that is something like it never crosses the midline. Somewhere in the center of the body, it will never cross. So from here, the another section of the nerves will be there. So the never it crosses the midline means it is a classic feature of shingles or herpes zoster. This you have to remember it. Now let us see some MCQ question. Chickenpox is characterized by all except. Uh, so the question is saying that it is characterized by everything except. Scabs means what? They are nothing but what? The healing stage. So do you think scabs are infective here? No, usually scabs are not infective. It is a stage where the recovery is happening. Then pleomorphic rashes.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
chickenpox is characterized by pleomorphic rashes. Do you all agree with this?
Yes.
Fine, it is true. And rashes are symmetrical, centripetal, dewdrop like presentation. We already
Yes.
know, no, symmetrical. On both sides, halves of the body, the rashes are equally distributed. That is true. But when it gets reactivated, what is the problem? It is not symmetrical. Only one half of the body it is distributed. It never crosses the midline. That we call it as herpes zoster or shingles. Then palms and soles not affected by the rash. It is true
Yes,
actually.
yes, correct.
Whereas in smallpox, always palms and soles. So whenever you get a case of some pox type of lesion, just look at the palms and soles. If it is not affected, then be thankful that it is not a case of smallpox. If it is there means then it is an what? The global emergency. Then we can declare it as what? Global emergency. This you have to remember. That means what? Then again there is a re-emergence of the smallpox because none of us who were born after 1980 after 1980 are vaccinated towards this smallpox. Yes. So when was the smallpox was eradicated or declaration done? Yesterday I told you, to find out May 8th,
19.
1980. So this
Yes.
is the time when the world is, or WHO has declared that smallpox has been totally eradicated. So what is the meaning of eradication here? Students, can you tell me what is the meaning of eradication?
Eradication means, ma'am, totally completed. There is no
From
secondary
the root
case.
itself, it is removed. And very important is that even though there
Agent
is
is removed from
no
environment.
vaccination is given, also, still the disease will never occur. Even without vaccination, also, disease will never occur. Then only we call it as what? Eradication. Disease will never occur. Whereas, what about this control? When you say it is control,
Just
control means the thing is under
transmission
control.
stage is just
Yeah, once you stop the vaccination, then again you can see new cases. So that is the reason eradication means what? Even without vaccine, also you can never see any disease. That is very important. Then can you tell me in India, like fine, this is one thing. Smallpox is totally eradicated from the
eradicated.
world. Then what about the one more general question? Polio. So polio, which completely polio is eradicated, or only one particular
One
strain of the?
strain, ma'am.
What
One
is that
strain is
strain?
P1, P2, P3, ma'am, 3 year, and two is
Yeah.
irrelevant.
In polio, no, like what is the thing? Three strains are there. Among the three strains from the world, which strain is eradicated? P2
Two, ma'am.
strain is eradicated. So that's still P1 and P3 strain are still existing in the world. So that's why nowadays we are preparing the vaccine only with P1 and
P1 and
P3
P3.
strains, which we call it as what? Bivalent vaccine. Then one more thing among the worm infections. Among the worm infections, guinea worm is there, no? Dracunculiasis.
It's also eradicated.
Yeah, it is also totally eradicated from India. It is eradicated from India. So, what is the risk factor for this dracunculiasis? Risk factor, students, Akarsh, Jayashree, Sirisha, and others, Vishal, Abhinandan. It is stepwell. Remember this. So, dracunculiasis, like most commonly observed among the people who commonly uses stepwells. So that's why in India, stepwells are no more used for the getting in or source of drinking, because it has been observed that who are more commonly contact with the stepwells, so they are more prone to develop which one, this particular dracunculiasis. But in India right now, it is declared as eradicated. Then, when you say the particular disease is eradicated from the world, eradicated. So, for example, in this 2020, imagine in this 2020, I have said that there is no measles in India. I didn't find any measles in India. Then 2021 also I will wait. 2022 also I will wait. Then 2023 also I will wait. So, for the consecutive, continuous 3 years, for the continuous 3 years, if I don't see any case of measles, then can I say that the measles is eradicated? Students,
Mm.
can you say this? Yeah, you can say this. That means what? According to World Health Organization, when do you want to declare any diseases eradicated from the region or globally? It is like you need to wait for how many years? 3 years. For the next 3 years, if there is no new cases or no incidents of that particular disease, or a particular focus of interest is not happened, then we can declare that it is eradicated. This point you have to remember. So now can you say chickenpox is characterized by all except? So the answer is first one. Scabs are infective. It is wrong actually. Scabs are not infective. They are not infective. Next, varicella zoster virus infection is more likely to occur in which of the following months? It is a general logical thing. It is most common during the month of which one? March.
March.
Yes. So what happens during this season? The virus is more present in the atmosphere or in the air, and it suspends well during this particular March month. So during this month, most people or most epidemics can happen. Then infectivity of chicken pox. So already we have discussed that 2 days before rash and 2 days after rash. This is the infectivity or period of communicability for this chicken pox. Yes. So chicken pox. See, remember, see, and then just make it ulta. Ulta, see, that means what? It is 2 days. So 2 days before rash and 2 days after rash is nothing but the period of communicability for this chicken pox. Now just find out the answers options over here. Which one of the following suits for this, students?
Sure. Second one.
Second one. Do you all agree with this? Chicken pox, the period of infectivity or communicability is when? 2 days before rash and 2 days after rash. Then, true about chicken pox except. Now, again, the question is asking except. So, it is caused by what? Human herpes virus 3. This
Stage
already
of
we know.
transition, ma'am.
Yeah. Then, secondary attack rate
Fourth
is
one.
90%, correct? Superficial rash. And fourth one is wrong actually. Can you see only single stage of rash?
No, ma'am.
No, because rashes will be in
Prodromal
different
stage.
different stages. At one point of time only, you can see what pustules, you can see simple vesicles, you can just see the redness or papules, you can even see the scabs also. So the fourth one is wrong. It is a pleomorphic rashes seen. So this one you have to opt.
Hmm.
Next, coming to the mumps. Like what is the incubation period of mumps? Students, can you tell me?
Ma'am, incubation period that is
Huh.
14 to 21 days.
Yes, 14 to 21 days, that is 2 weeks to 3 weeks is the incubation period of mumps. So what is the answer over here? It is third one.
Hmm.
Now, one more thing I want to tell you here itself, in which of the following respiratory or the viral infections there is no iceberg phenomenon? There is no iceberg phenomenon seen.
Me-
Students, can you tell me? That means what?
Rubella,
Iceberg
ma'am.
phenomenon means what?
Ma'am, rubella.
Yeah, it is rubella and measles. So these are the
Measles.
two viral or respiratory infections, viral respiratory infections, where no iceberg phenomenon is seen. That means what? There is
No
no
carriers.
carriers, no carriers. Like for example, if this fellow is infected, he will get the disease. He will get rubella and or measles, whatever it is, but he cannot be a carrier. He cannot spread lifelong to somebody else and all. So there is no carrier state, because if there are carriers, then there will be like possibility to cause this iceberg phenomenon. Iceberg phenomenon means what? The clinical cases whatever we see, it is only the indicating the tip of the iceberg. Whatever the submerged portion of the iceberg that is within the water which is not seen, no, it indicates subclinical or the carrier states of the disease. Because we don't know, like they in the society they look very healthy and asymptomatic. So that is the reason we say that a disease which doesn't have any carriers, they all doesn't show iceberg phenomenon. So what is the example over here? Rubella and the measles are the one which has no carriers, so no iceberg phenomenon seen. Are you all clear with this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then one more question I want to generally just ask, because in the vaccination topic anyway I'll cover that. But point to be noted here is that what is the vaccine strain used for measles? What is the vaccine strain used for measles?
Edmonston,
Yeah,
Zagrebston, ma'am.
it is Edmonston Zagrebston strain. Yes, and what is the doses given? Usually two doses are given.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
when it is given 9
9
months,
months
and
and
then
16,
second dose is given at 16 to
24.
24 months. So this you have to remember. And why also I'll explain you during the vaccination topic. Like in India currently, no, like in 2017. Like government of India has started with a very nice vaccination campaign for this measles. So like very good results were observed also. So most probably in future we may go ahead with the eradication of measles also, and that is also target of the WHO. So like the 2 doses of the measles vaccine should be given, one at 9 months, another is 16 to 24 months, and the strain that is used is the virus strain that is Edmonstrom Zagreb strain. And then what is a route of giving of this measles vaccine? That is
Subcutaneous.
subcutaneously. It has to be given. And what is the diluent used over here? That is, it is a,
Distilled water.
yeah, it is distilled water or sterile water. Either of the two can be used, because this vaccine, whatever is there, it comes in the powder form. So that is why we call it as what, lyophilized vaccines. Now you need to mix this powdered form of the vaccine with the distilled water, nicely you mix it, then you load it into the syringe and then inject subcutaneously to the baby and give it 2 doses. Where do you give? On the right upper arm. So where do you give? It is given on the right upper arm of the baby. So here you give it subcutaneously. Then mumps. Mumps is also called as what? Epidemic parotitis, and it is also a respiratory communicable disease, and it is caused by which group of virus? That is RNA paramyxovirus. It is also called as myxovirus parotitis. Now what is the incubation period? Already we have discussed in the MCQ question, that is 14 to 21 days. That is 2 to 3 weeks is the period of infectivity or communicate, I mean sorry, incubation period for this mumps. Then what is the period of communicability? So once the virus enters the body and it starts multiplying, and first clinical signs and symptoms are noticed, then from when it will be communicable to the others. So what is the period of communicability? It is 4 to 6 days before rash and 7 days after rash. This point you have to remember. And once a person is infected with the mumps, definitely is that lifelong immunity is provided. And what is the secondary attack rate of mumps? Again, so many MCQ questions are asked related to that. That is 86%. Now, can you tell me what is the, when you compare with the measles and compared with the chicken pox, secondary
More,
attack rate is highest with
more
which
than
one?
90%.
Yeah, these two are having
90%.
the secondary attack rate of somewhere around 90%. So mumps, the secondary attack rate is comparatively lesser as compared to measles and chicken pox. Now, what is the thing about this mumps? What is the meaning of the word mumps? It means what? Some swelling or some nodule. So very important is that this mumps causing RNA virus, it is a negative sense virus. It is a single stranded RNA negative stranded virus. It has got lot of affinity towards which one? The secretory organs of the body, especially the parotid glands. Especially the parotid glands. Now what happens? Because of this, the parotid glands will be swollen. Yes, parotid gland will be swollen, parotid gland, and it may be unilateral or it may be bilateral, and there may be tenderness in the ear, tenderness in the ear, and there may be what is another symptom? Trismus. Trismus means
Yes.
what do you mean by trismus, students?
Ma'am,
Difficulty,
yes, ma'am.
difficulty in opening the mouth. Yeah, difficulty in opening mouth. So these are the general presentations of the mumps. So there will be swelling of the parotid gland and there will be tenderness in the ear. Then there will be difficulty in opening the mouth called as trismus. And apart from that, what you can see is that this we call it as what? Jaw angle. So the angle of the ramus of the mandible, this angle we call it as what? Jaw angle. So this jaw angle, this angulation of the jaw, it will be lost and it appears more obtuse or blunt in nature. And what about this ear lobule? The ear will be raised up and it will be taken outwards. So these are the general clinical presentations of the mumps. Apart from this, what will be there? The patient will be suffering with the fever, headache, myalgia, and all. So these are the general presentations. Apart from this parotid gland, this mumps virus also affinity for the lymph nodes, and it can even affect the pancreas, and it can even affect the kidneys also. So these are like, and even it can affect the reproductive organs also. And sometimes even it can affect which one, students? Brain. So in the brain,
Meningitis.
what it can affect? It can affect the layers covering the brain, that is meninges, or it can even affect the brain itself. That is called as what? Encephalitis. So meningitis means what? What do you mean by meningitis? It is the meninges
Inflammation
means
of
what?
the
They are the layers. There are three layers that cover the brain tissue, right? Yes or no? The brain tissue is covered by how many layers? Three layers. First one is dura mater, then arachnoid matter, then it is pia matter,
I am.
right? Do you all agree with this? Then arachnoid, that is middle layer, and the third layer, that is pia mater. These two are called as what? Lepto,
leptomeninges,
leptomeninges. Now, whatever the infection or inflammation of this meninges, we call it as what? Meningitis.
meningitis,
Then, other than if the infection is not involving the meninges, if it involves directly the brain tissue, then we call it as what?
biomeninges,
Encephalitis. So now this mumps virus, no, it has got a lot of affinity even towards the brain tissue, also brain and even the layers covering the brain tissue. So that can be one of the complication of this mumps. Then it is also respiratory infection, and like through the droplets, airborne droplets, it can be spread to one person. And what is the complication? It is aseptic
meningitis,
meningitis. So no like pus forming cells are seen, only like inflammatory condition of the meninges of the brain is seen, and it is commonly seen in the children. It is one of the most common and most threatening complication of this mumps. So remember, mumps, M stands for mumps, M also stands for meningitis. So this is one of the most common complication of mumps. And this mumps, no, it commonly affects the school going children, that is 5 to 10 years of age. So it is also called as what? Disease of the school going children. Then if the mumps affects the adolescents, then what can happen? It can lead to a complication called as orchitis in the males. Remember that the testes or testes and all, they'll be tender, and sometimes it may be unilateral or like complete testis may not be affected with this, and chance of sterility is less. Sterility is one of the dead end complication if it affects the adolescents, but it is less. But it will be painful tender testis, and if it is in the ladies or the women of the adolescent age, then it can lead to which one?
orchitis,
Huh? Orchitis in males, then in women, ladies, it can
oophoretis.
lead to oophoриtis. Very good. So now let us see the question over here. Most common complication of mumps in children. Remember, if the
Aseptic
question is,
meningitis.
it is aseptic meningitis. You have to remember this. If the question says most common complication of mumps, that's it. No children, no adolescents, nothing is mentioned. Still, you have to pick the answer as
Aseptic.
meningitis. But if they ask you the question, most common complication of mumps in adolescents or in the males or in the females, then look
Orchitis.
for oophoриtis or orchitis. So these options you have to search for. Then tomorrow I will cover with the influenza, but let us solve some of the MCQs related to influenza. True about epidemiology of influenza. So what is true about influenza?
Ma'am, uh,
Yes, students. Already yesterday only I have just given you one hint that this influenza virus, no, it is very like very dangerous virus actually, because it has got RNA within it, and it is a segmented RNA. It is a segmented. This point you have to keep it in your mind. If you keep it in your mind, then you will understand why the epidemics or pandemics do occur with the influenza. It has got segmented RNA, segmented genome. So now what happens, since this genome is in a segmented way, so pieces are there. Now this is influenza. How many strains are there? A, B, C, D. Yes, do you all agree with this? So now what
yes,
happens? This A only different varieties are there. So one it will affect the pigs, one will it will affect the like birds. That is pigs we call it as what? Swine, and birds we call it as what? Avian. So like that different animal hosts are there. So now once what happens, the pig influenza virus, bird influenza virus, these two they will enter the human, they will enter the human. Now what happens, they too get into the human host cells. Now in this pig virus and this bird influenza virus, their genes will come out, their segmented genes, they will come out, and they will be genes recombination. So this gene material, this genetic material, they'll mix match and all, a new virus will be created, a new or the
anti
novel virus will be created for which our body doesn't have any immunity. And then what happens? It can cause the pandemics because nobody is resistant, or our body is not prepared to fight with this newer type of virus. So that is the reason why we are actually facing the problem with this coronavirus also. So like
Hmm.
the segmented RNA is very dangerous. So, true about epidemiology of influenza is what? It is asymptomatic, seen rarely. No, most of the cases they are symptomatic. Then
Yes, ma'am.
incubation period is what? 10 to 12 hours.
18 to 72.
It is 72 hours. 18 to 72 hours is the incubation period. That is somewhere around 3 days. Do you agree? So, if the person gets infected with the influenza virus, by third day or by 72nd hour, the person will show the clinical signs and symptoms. And pandemics are rare. This option is right. No, it is wrong actually. With influenza, what happens? Pandemics will definitely occur because antigenic shift and antigenic drift. What is antigenic shift and drift?
Due to
Students?
point mutation, that
Yeah.
is antigenic
Shift.
drift,
Yeah. Shift means totally remember. Shift means the virus is
genetic
totally
reset rate.
shifting to a new virus. That is genetic recombination is taking place. So this pig virus and then a human virus, when they interact, then a new virus will be produced, totally new virus. And our body doesn't have any immunity towards this new virus. So what happens? Everybody will get infected rapidly, and then it will lead to pandemics. Whereas antigenic drift means what? As you said, it is a point mutation. So for example, this is a genetic material of the virus. Only at one point here some changes will happen, so virus will remain like that only, and little bit change in its genetic content will happen. So our body, when it enters, what happens? Our body, we have sufficient immunity, but little more additional effort it has to, body has to take care or do, so that it can tackle even this point mutation also. So that means what? It is not much dangerous as compared to that of the antigenic shift. So our body is ready to fight with this antigenically drifted virus, and it can usually lead to what? Epidemics. And sometimes this drift may cause pandemics, but it is very much rare. Then extra human reservoirs not seen. So this is, do you think it is right or wrong with this influenza?
Wrong, ma'am.
It is wrong. Extra human reservoirs are present. Then
Right.
all ages and sexes are equally affected. Students, if you read the Park textbook now, all these points are clearly mentioned over there. All the ages, all ages and all sexes. This is very, very important. Many times MCQs related to this option itself has been asked. All the ages and all the sexes are equally affected. Male and female distribution is what? It is equal in influenza infection. Yes. So
Yes,
shall I
ma'am.
stop it here, students?
Ma'am, you can continue, ma'am.
Because no, I didn't prepare the slides for this thing. Tomorrow I'll continue, Roshan.
Okay, ma'am.
So tomorrow I'll continue with the
Okay, ma'am.
influenza. Then I will take with the new ತಕೊಳ್ತೀರಿ ನೀವು ಯಾವಾಗ ತಕೊಳ್ತೀರಿ 8 o'clock. So tomorrow sir will take it at 8 o'clock. Is it all okay for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Then fine. You want me to cover this one tomorrow and finish it up, or next class should I take? ನಾಳೆ ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? Fine. So tomorrow sir will take CNS discussion at 8 o'clock.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
tomorrow I'll cover with the influenza, then again rest of the respiratory, diphtheria, then whooping cough or the pertussis. All these things I'll be covering it tomorrow. So if possible, then I'll cover the pneumonia also, if the time permits. Fine.
Okay, ma'am.
So all of you go through your books and solve the MCQs. I think you can solve everything now. And one more question I want to ask you, and you should only reply me. So what is the virus that causes smallpox? What is the name of the virus that causes smallpox?
Ma'am, cow.
Huh?
Okay.
That is a vaccine, Roshan. The virus name is what? Variola major. Remember this, all of you. What is the virus that causes smallpox? It is variola major, and that is the one which causes smallpox disease. And variola minor, it causes which one? Altracia, that causes ultrasum, that is variola minor. Remember it is these names. And remember one more thing is that the US army, like in the world right now, like nowhere this
Okay, ma'am.
smallpox vaccine is there, but the US government what they have done, so they have created a newer type of the smallpox vaccine. So they are like through human cell line cultures they have been produced, and they have preserved all this smallpox vaccine. And they know that if at all any bioterrorism or any outbreak suddenly if it happens also, then the world should be ready to tackle that. So the US government agency already it has got this stock of this smallpox vaccine. Earlier the vaccine that was used for smallpox, no, yesterday I told you, no, it is called as dry vax. It was produced from the lymph nodes of the cow or the calf. So babies of the cow, no, like a cowpox virus has been injected, and there the virus is grown, and that virus will be taken and it will be injected into the host, that is a human. This point you have to remember. Now, no more we are using this. Which one? Cough lymph vaccine. But US Army it has got, because why I am stressing on this, because suddenly if there is a bioterrorism attack using this smallpox, then the world should be ready to face with this. And even the US military army people, no, now are also they are getting this particular smallpox vaccination. Every military personnel of this one US Army, they have to get vaccinated with the smallpox, because they'll be always under the risk of this bioterrorism agent. Yes. And if at all then MCQ is asked, what is the most common like a complication of the smallpox vaccination? It is pericarditis or myocarditis. These are the two commonly happening complications of this smallpox vaccination. Then one random question I want to ask you: what is the most common complication with the chickenpox? Students, Sirisha,
Ma'am,
Vishal, Roshan,
shingles,
huh?
shingles.
It is shingles. Shingles you have to remember. And what are the clinical features of Ramsay Hunt syndrome?
Ma'am, ipsilateral facial paralysis and
Hmm.
ear pain and sensory
Hmm.
hearing loss. And ma'am,
Yes. Vesicles on the
in
pinna.
benign,
And very
Vesicle sun.
important, yeah, excellent. And very important is that geniculate ganglion is involved over here. And it is always, it will never cross the midline. Why I'm stressing is it's very, very, very important clinically differentiating point. Pathognomic feature only we can say it. Yes.
okay.
Then all of you like tomorrow find out the answer for Rice syndrome and all, like because in rest of the classes this discussion also will be there, and many times MCQ is asked on this Rice syndrome also. Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
fine. So shall we disperse, students?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, chalo, bye.
Ma'am, tomorrow 6 o'clock class.
No, sir will be taking at 8 o'clock. If you want
And
me to take it at 6 o'clock, I'll take then. One
okay,
hour
ma'am.
if you can spare. Huh?
You can, ma'am.
So should I take and finish up the other parts of the respiratory infection?
6 o'clock, ma'am.
6 o'clock I'll take. 8 o'clock, sir, he will take.
Okay, ma'am.
Agreed with the others also. Vishal, Jayashree, Akarsh,
Yes, ma'am.
Sirisha. So 6 o'clock I will take. 8 o'clock, sir will take.
Okay, ma'am.
Fine. Okay.